Good evening, everyone. I want to ask you if there are any things that you have questions about that was discussed, or something that you read, or something that someone has brought up to you that you would like understanding on. So if there are questions or comments, please make your comments or raise your questions at this moment. Thank you.
I would like you to touch a little more on. I came in yesterday when you was talking about. Excuse me. You say you don't live by faith. You live by
Knowing.
By knowing. Could you touch a little more on that, if you can, please elaborate on it a little more?
Sure. What I mean by that is this: you get to a place in your life when you don't have to be convinced of anything. You don't have to have confidence in anything, because you know what it is. Example: when you put your key in your door, if you have a key, you don't have confidence. You know it's going to open because it's your key in your door. Am I right?
Right.
That's what I mean. You get to a place like Jesus did not have to say, well, I have faith that it's going to happen. Jesus just simply made it happen. He said it's going to happen. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So, at what point did you come to know and realize that? Was it the simple things or just anything?
Well, I've begun to notice when I would tell people, don't worry, I got it right.
Mm-hmm.
That wasn't faith. That was knowing that it was going to happen. And it did. And that's what I'm talking about. Also, there have been events in my life that I spoke to, and they happened.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't remember Jesus saying, I have faith that I'm going to open these eyes, right?
Right.
He just did it.
Right.
That's a knowing. When he healed the woman with the issue of blood, he didn't say, I have faith that I can do this. He said to her, your faith has healed you.
Right.
And I do believe that it came because I desired it so deeply, and I was embracing the oneness with Abun, the Father, before I understood what that looks like. And in embracing that, I was able to do things that Jesus did. And I guess you've heard me say it before. I was at Haskell Heights in Columbia, and the pastor actually died. He fell on the floor in the pulpit, and this nurse came up and could not find a pulse, neither could she find a heartbeat. So I asked her to move away from him, and she said, no, I have to do compression. I said, no, please move away from him. And I didn't think about it. It just came to me to do that. And I just held my hand over his heart, and he went and was up again. Did they take him to the hospital? Yes, they did. But she was like, you brought him back to life. And at that time, I said, God did, because I didn't understand who I am. Does that make sense?
Yes, it makes plenty of sense. The reason I was asking, because we got a few people that's just wrestling back and forth, but things that they're going through, and that's about the best answer I could get in, but the way you just explained it, as to them saying that they live by faith, and so that right there is going to help a lot.
Okay. Now the other thing is this: there are people who live by faith on this phone. There are people who look for something to happen or want it to happen, and then it's almost like they open one eye and say, "Is it happening yet?" That kind of thing, or "Is it going to happen?" As opposed to just saying it or desiring it and letting it go. And I do understand that that's quite difficult in a lot of cases to simply do that. However, it is these types of events in your life that you struggle with that gives you the strength or shows you that you do have the ability to live by knowing. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Anyone else or any questions?
Pastor, may I add to what you just told Kathy, too? This is Kathy, the other Kathy. I was just thinking as you were talking and I was listening to everything that Kathy was saying about the very definition, the scripture definition of what faith is. It's the evidence of something that you're hoping for. So you're hoping that something will happen, and hope implies you're not even sure that it's going to happen. When Jesus said to the woman with the issue of blood, your faith has made you whole, you have to think about what she knew going in. She said, I know if I can just touch the hem of his garment, I will be made whole. So she was at a place of knowing when she touched him. So she wasn't hoping she would be healed. She wasn't hoping that something would happen, miraculously just happen. She knew if she could get close enough, even just to touch him, that she would be made whole. And so I think by the very definition of what the scripture teaches us that faith is, at some point we're growing and moving beyond a place of just hoping that something good is going to happen, or hoping that if I just, like you said, say it and then have one eye open and looking and say, did it happen yet? That to me is an example of hope. But when you get to the point of knowing, the woman with the issue of blood and everything that you've given as examples, that's when you know that you're getting to the point of just knowing it's going to happen because of who you are. And I just wanted to share that. Thank you.
And I wanted to piggyback on what Kathy just said to Kathy's question. And I'm glad she was able to speak before me. Yes, that faith, once somebody has faith, it is the idea that whatever it is that they are concentrating on and have faith in, it can go. Can you please mute your phone?
Please. Okay.
Yeah. It in your head or in your mind, in your heart, that thing that you have faith for can possibly go the way that you hope for it to go and you believe it's going to go. But at the same time, it's the possibility that it will not. You just have confidence that it's going to work out in your favor. Hope. Going back to the lady that Kathy just mentioned, and I'm glad she made that distinction. She was hoping or had faith that she could touch his garment, but she knew that as long as she could get close and touch his garment, once she touched her garment, she had 100% certainty that she would be healed. So as Pastor Richard, when he talks about knowing is when 100% certainty is reached, where that's the only thing exists. The possibility of that not even of the opposite existing isn't even possible. It's just taken for granted because like I said, it's 100% certain. It's not holding the eyes open, hoping that it's going to be the way. I know I'm 99.99% certain it's going to happen. It's 100% where the opposite is no longer possible at all.
And Sheldon, Sheldon is the king of hope. I'm a king of knowing. Especially when he first left South Carolina to go to NYU. He's a king of knowing. And because so many things that he needed or desired, both, every one of them worked out almost instantly. So when I talk about knowing to people, I usually tell them that I know somebody who's the king of knowing because of what the ordeals that they face in a rapid procession. So, and this is the other part about Mr. Sheldon. He knew he could have called and got ample help, but he didn't. He trusted what he knew. That's it. And then I say it's not easy sometimes. You do that. There are people on the phone who live by faith, but you grow to knowing. Okay, go ahead, Sheldon.
I'm laughing because I have gotten fussed at by people as well, because they'll find out what was going on and be like, why didn't you call? Why didn't you reach out? And I was just laughing at myself when you said that. Because of that knowing, I was literally like, well, I didn't think it was actually bad, because I just knew that it was going to work out. So it wasn't until I don't mean seriously getting fussed at, but kind of getting fussed at. As I'm getting fussed at, and I'm thinking about, the circumstances, I'm like, yeah, I see what they were, talking about. That does sound crazy, from their perspective. I'm finished.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else?
And it's strange that when I came on the line yesterday, Sunday morning in church school, I was giving them an example of knowing, and didn't have no idea that you had done said this on the line until after I got home. And I told them that, I told you about my blood work, right? And you told me just drink that water, and I told you I was going to drink cranberry juice. And I say, I know when I go back, those numbers not going to be the same. And when I went Friday and got the blood work results, the doctor said, she said, your blood work is great. So where he had me coming back in 3 months, now I don't have to go back for 6 months because the blood work, the numbers went way down. And I just told him I knew that when I got to that doctor's office and got the results, that those numbers were not going to be the same. And it came to pass. I'm finished.
And I just thank you for sharing that, Kathy. I just remembered another word for everyone that was used yesterday, as we got on the subject, was confidence. To have confidence, and to have confidence means that you are sure that you will overcome whatever the overcoming is. But that's what confidence means. It means that you are sure that you're going to be able to do something, which automatically implies, like I said, it's something that is being overcome. To know goes beyond having confidence that you are overcome, because there is absolutely nothing to overcome. It just is.
Hey, this is Mary. I've seen it operate in my life. I think a couple of months back, I kind of really understood what Paul was talking about remain these three, and what faith. And then I realized that I don't have to hope, because faith is the substance of things hoped for. So I didn't have to do that. I had just to know. And my thing is getting comfortable that when I speak, things happen. And being aware of what I'm saying, because I know a couple of weeks back we talked about making sure that what we're saying, make sure when our words have power, and make sure that what we're saying is something positive. Because I've thrown out a lot of positive stuff, and I've gotten it back. But I also spoke negativity, and I got it back. The thing is, for me, is finding the balance and being sure And how do I keep reminding myself, and I guess I need these affirmations, just keep reminding myself of who I am, and that, I am God having a human experience, and I need to make sure that I watch what I say and do so that I can help others and put out positive vibes. So the question is, how do you stay balanced? How do you work on this balance that you don't pour out that negative energy?
Help yourself. Go ahead, Sheldon.
I was about to say, Mary, you've already been doing it. You just told us. Every time you catch yourself doing that, essentially, let's pretend you had an etchy sketch. You essentially drew one line that you didn't like, and then you erased it and started all over again. The only difference is, as you continue to do that, you are more aware of it, and then in a sense, putting out that action that you don't want to do, you are doing it less and less, because putting out a positive thought is being reprogrammed in a sense, and then it becomes more and more and more automatic to the point where you don't even realize it's happening. I think I'm not sure if it was you, Mary, or someone else who mentioned we were talking about breathing and yoga, and I noticed long after I started doing yoga, something that was actually taking place. When you're going through yoga, you're putting yourself in strenuous situations sometimes, and depending on how the poses are, and you're supposed to keep your breath, and you're breathing deeply and breathe in slowly. Well, what I noticed was, just in my regular day life, when things would just come up, I later on realized that I was doing those same like deep breaths, which was helping me in the situation, not making the connection that I had picked that up in yoga. So what you just explained made me think about that. You're reprogramming yourself, you're changing, you already have been doing that, and you're just asking about that when you're already in the middle of that process. So just keep on doing what you're doing, and don't beat yourself up, saying, oh, darn, this is a terrible thought. I need to move away from it. Just with ease, just go in another direction.
That's good, because I'm good at beating myself up, saying I shouldn't have done that. Let me go apologize. Let me go and feel like I need to do something to rectify what I said. So I'm working. I'm getting there. It's a process, but hey, I'm thankful I'm headed in the right direction. And about the earthquakes and stuff, I had to do a whole lot of stuff about that, and knowing that I'm where I'm supposed to be, and I know the pastor's already said that to me, but I know where I'm here for a reason, and I'm glad. And no matter what comes up, I'm just gonna keep that peace. Work on keeping the peace and keeping my mind clear, so that I can be what I need to be in a time like this. So thank y'all so much.
Yeah. One last thing, right quick, Mary. Every time you come, because you say you beating yourself up. Every time you have found yourself in a situation where you have caught yourself and you think you have had a negative thought, just know that is not permanent, and just decide, I want to redo that. In a sense, that's essentially what you're doing. And so then you just let it go, reminding yourself that it's not permanent, and deciding that, okay, I'm gonna go in a different direction. Just simple as that. But just remember, it's not permanent.
Thank you. That's good. It's not permanent. Thank you.
Hey, go ahead.
Go ahead, Pastor. I'm sorry I interrupt you.
No. I was going to see if there were any questions or comments about that. Then I was going to ask you about yesterday. You facilitated anything you wanted to add to that. That's all.
Yeah, I first though I want to add to something Sheldon just said, because he kind of just said what I was thinking. I think sometimes we don't, or we just hadn't gotten. It's so new to us. We don't understand the power behind going back to the beginning. Uh, we you Pastor mentioned to us we never leave beginning. Uh, that's powerful, and when we have these episodes where we have these negative thoughts, that's just something that pops in my head sometimes. Just take a breath. You're okay. You get do-overs because your heart is in the right place. Uh, the other thing I think that kind of comes to me is, how do we know that these negative thoughts aren't part of what keep us praying or keeping us focused and digging deeper to see enlightenment? Um, it just, sometimes I when I catch myself, it does allow me to see something else, or after, especially if I don't use it as an opportunity to beat myself up, it allows me to go to a certain place as far as my meditation is concerned. So it just may very well be that there's a positive side to them that we still don't yet understand.
Right, quick before anyone else responds. Absolutely agree, and it's an example of all things working out for the good. I'm finished.
I agree.
Thank you, Sean.
Is there anyone else who has a question or comment? Because I was thinking when Mary was talking, I was thinking about her experience with the earthquake. She just went to bed. She couldn't do anything about it anyway. And that was knowing. You just came to the conclusion that whatever happens, it happens because the Creator is who you trust. I remember you saying that. So, if that's where we are in terms of our understanding of knowing, are there comments that you have in reference to what we talked about yesterday?
Yes, sir. There was. Does someone else want to speak? Was there something else?
I just want to say thank you for reminding me of that. I did do that. You have a tendency to forget, let me just say, I have a tendency to forget, and that's why I need to remind myself. Maybe I need to put affirmations up all over my house to remind me, because, and don't beat myself up over it. So thank y'all. I'm off.
The question I have, or the statement that I have, the whole aspect of knowing. I like the part of knowing what it takes to get to know. And what I mean by that is, if I have to go to a new site, I don't know how to get there, the planning of it. I got to look it up on the map. So just wanted to know, which part do you all find to be the part that you take a liking to once you know it, or what it took for you to get to know it? And like I say, I like to know. I like the part of what it takes to get to know. And I just wanted to ask if it's anyone, do you share that experience? Or once I know something, got to move on to the next one to get that feeling back, if it's a fair question.
George, I don't have a feeling. When I say one time I did, But I don't have a feeling now. I just say it now, and that's the end of it. Sometimes I forget I even said it until someone reminds me that it happened. As far as how to get to the place of knowing, that's what we are. That's what we are now. We're traveling the journey to know, not simply to hope, but to know. And it takes desire, deep desire. It takes a commitment to what the truth that you are being exposed to. You can't be exposed to the truth, and then once you get off the phone, you are back into all the habits that you were in prior to you being on the phone. And it goes on and on like that. That in itself is hypocritical. And you don't get to a place of knowing. You always struggle with whether or not something is going to happen, because it is the true definition of hypocritical. Because hypocrite is one who pretends to be something that is not. And of course, it came from the plays, Shakespeare plays, when there were more than one character with a mask on. I mean, one person played more than one character. So the whole idea of hypocrisy is definitely alive when we try to play both sides against the middle. Thank you. And I hope that helps George.
I think, this is Audrey. I think Sheldon's example of the yoga and the deep breathing is a similar kind of analogy for knowing, because it's sort of a growth process, and you don't even realize you're moving into it until you're there, and then you all of a sudden realize I'm there. So, and sometimes you don't realize you're there, but it's a growth process. It's an experience process. It's a trusting process. So, but it's not like a 1, 2, 3, do this step and do that step and all that. It's just the experience of getting to know yourself, and at the same time, getting to know the Creator.
And still, there are times when you get it. There are times when you have to remind yourself. What I do, I talk to me, and I tell me, that's not who you are. Or I tell me, listen, you've already dealt with that, so let it go. And I have to fight sometimes to let it go because of how I have been indoctrinated through religion and education.
Yeah, I agree. The experience is a like 1 step forward, 2 steps back kind of thing. But it is the experience that gets you there.
Right. Thank you. Anyone else?
Yes, this is Jackie. I'd like to add about when just to piggyback on George's question, and maybe comment on that about the yoga. When I started yoga, maybe it took the anxiety to drive me to yoga, because my desire was to learn I wanted to meditate, and that was my desire. And when you and Ron and Kathy shared with me, is no right or wrong way to just breathe and meditate. And you, Pastor, you and I, we talked, and you said, Jack, just embrace it and know that that's not you. It's not going to consume you, which drove me to take yoga. And now I can tell I'm in a different place. I'm in a different space with my breathing, I always desired to take yoga for the spiritual side of it. And now I can tell the balance. And like I shared with you, Pastor, and I said, I'm a work in progress. And you said, Jack, we all are. we're continuing to work. We're a work in progress because we're on this journey together. So when I mentioned that last week about taking yoga, that's what I was associating it with, the spiritual side of it. And they just drop little nuggets. They're saying little things, and it just lets me know that's where I'm supposed to be because that's what we're teaching. Some of the things that my instructor says, he or she says, it's stuff that we've talked about, that we've discussed, and it's just a different feeling, and it just makes me feel great to be a part of that. And I want to share that because, like I said, just arriving with none of us have arrived. We're still on this journey, but to drive me to that, when do you know? And my desire is still to, for meditation, but it just helped me when the three of you guys shared with me that it's no right or wrong way to meditate. All it takes is a desire, and that has helped me. I'm done.
Thank you, ma'am. And thanks for reminding us that all of us are a work in progress. Regardless of what we teach and what we are shown, we are still a work in progress because we don't have a destination. We have a destiny. Anyone else?
Yeah, what I wanted to comment to George right quick as well as Audrey was mentioning, George. It's the knowing that we're more so talking about is that which you automatically know and you don't even think about it. It's just automatically accepted as a fact. So if you think about it, when you your ability to drive somewhere, when you get in that truck and operate it, however you know you need to get from point A to point B or whatever, you don't think about as you're changing the gears, most likely. You just automatically doing it, and it seems like it's automatic, as if your body is just moving to shift the gears, etc., without even you giving it much thought at all. When certain things may arrive or come up during your journey, there are things that you automatically know with certainty without actually coming to that conclusion by actually thinking about it or observing it from an intellectual standpoint. You just know deep down that this particular thing is about to happen, and then you act accordingly. So that's what it is, more so when we're talking about that knowing and that certainty, something that doesn't have to be proven to you, something that you haven't gotten to by saying, okay, this happened, that happened, so this is about to happen. You just know it deep down within yourself and may not even realize that you actually know that thing. You just automatically moving along, reacting to that particular thing. They call it flow when you're just in flow. That is the more so the knowing that we're actually talking about. I'm finished.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else?
Well, just in listening to what everyone has said, I was just thinking that with the aspect of knowing, maybe I don't want to know nothing. And what I mean by that is I just like the part of getting to know it or whatever it is. I never want to put myself in the position of I've mastered something. So I would just say on a soft diagnosis, I enjoy being a student. But it's just a good feeling to me to put yourself in the position of I want to know how to do this. Okay, what am I gonna give up to know this? who do I need to associate myself with to know what I need to get? But that's it right there. Reverend Richard, I hope you all understand that. Reverend Richard, you understand this?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, we understand what you're saying, George, but you can actually have both, because what you're talking about is a different type of knowing. So it does not go against what it is that we're actually talking about. So all of us would agree with what you just said. The knowing that we're talking about is the type of knowing that you cannot know from a process of learning. So we agree with you wholeheartedly, but we're just trying to say we're talking about a different type of knowing.
And also this idea of no one ever masters anything in the sense that we call someone a master of it. That means that you do it really well. It doesn't mean that you're done, because you cannot possibly master anything if you are not ready to continue to learn, because there is always something else. You can't be a teacher if you're not a student. And you can't be a student if you don't desire to understand and embrace it so that it becomes a part of your life. And that is whether we are talking about changing gears in a truck, or whether we are talking about the change that we are fomenting in this society. That you have, if you're going to be the student, you have to have a desire to understand what you are being taught. And I have never known a good teacher who was not a good student, a continuous student. And I'm going to take it a step further. That is one of the reasons that pastors are so ridiculously uninformed, because they have convinced themselves that they have mastered the scriptures. They convinced themselves that you have to ask them rather than you being in a position to answer a question that's in their mind. And during the course of teachings, what I've found is that pastors are ashamed to be a student because they think they already know, and that's why you don't get anything other than the same thing you've been getting for 40 years. Thank you. I hope that's clear. It makes sense.
Pastor, remember, this is Evelyn. Remember how we used to say a person is a jack of all trades and a master of none?
Yep. That's a different meaning.
And oh, it is? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, what's the difference?
The difference is that when that can be a negative statement, meaning that you don't master anything, you don't really know how to do much of anything. You try everything, but you're not good at it. The word
Thank
jack.
you.
Oh. Anyone else? Really?
Thank you.
You're welcome. Anyone else? Take it, Ron. What you want to just what are you ready to
Yeah, I just wanted to kind of talk about something we talked about yesterday, and when we were talking about the statement that Creflo Dollar made, the apologizing for still asking people to tithe. And because he said that came under the law, we should not be doing that anymore. And my statement to that was in error, that his observation was a spiritual thing that I don't think he recognizes. It had to come from him because of who he is, his relationship and importance of money to him, and religion as far as blessings being equated to materialism. So it was no coincidence that it came from him, and that was the power of it. I think, and as we discussed, it was an opportunity for us to straighten things out, or to look at things a bit further. And I don't want to not get away from this term because I like it and I think it fits when I talk about putting things in the macro. I think this is a perfect example of that. I was looking at something Solomon said. Solomon said in Ecclesiastes, there is nothing new under the sun. That is, it may be a true statement, but that doesn't mean that it is all clear, or it all makes sense, or it all leads to righteousness. And of course, we know he wasn't talking about literally, but what I think we do is the opportunities take those things and turn them around. Like this, for example, has been understood in the earth to be truth for years, that blessings is equated to materialism. And this is an opportunity to shed some light on that. So as we talk about these things, I look at them. I'm sorry, I'm kind of struggling with my voice here. But I look at them as something stronger than the words that we say to each other. I look at those words, for those words to take action as it leaves with our breath. So this is one of those such times that I think we have opportunity to do that. So the part of this that I wanted to bring up that we didn't mention yesterday is anything that is done by the law, you do it because you're obligated to. And if you're obligated to, your heart is not in it. You're doing it because you have been taught that it is right, or it is the lawful thing to do. But there is nothing that you are experiencing from that to bring about enlightenment to yourself or to anybody else. So when he talks about the law, or even looking at how most religious people look at the Old Testament, and people say, well, you cannot keep the law. You cannot keep the law because this is an obligation to you. How do you move from the law being an obligation to being perfect, or to being complete and upright? Because that word should not have been translated as perfect. So that's what I wanted to talk about a little bit today, the experiences that we are having and how that leads to completeness and wholeness, as opposed to being obligated to do something. Does that make sense?
It does. I can see that being an obligation under the law, and when Jesus fulfilled the law, it was no longer an obligation. It was something that he enjoyed doing because it's the right thing to do.
Yes.
And you do it looking for nothing in return. You just do it because it's right. And from some of those who were I'm stepping on you, Ron. For some of those who may not have been on the phone yesterday, the tithe is not under the law. The tithe is a gift. So, go ahead, Ron.
No, thank you, Pastor. I'm sorry, I was clearing my throat. But you are absolutely right. but those people that see it as an obligation still think puts it under the law. They lump all of that together because they lack understanding. When you see something that is obligated, you don't have an understanding of it. You're operating from a place of immaturity in that particular thing. So I want to read some scripture here, and I want to talk about how we get there. And Mark.
Ron.
Yes, ma'am.
Can I say something before you read the scripture?
Of course.
What you're talking about is exactly what we've been talking about. The difference between knowing versus living by faith. So it really dovetails back into that same thing, because once you know, you don't feel you're doing anything through any obligation. You're just doing it because you know. Whereas when you're living by faith, you do it because you know, okay, this is what I'm supposed to do if I say I believe this or that or the other. So what you're saying is exactly what we've been talking about for the last 10 minutes or so.
As a matter of fact, Audrey, I wrote down something you said because I want to apply it. You said experience of getting to know yourself. That speaks volumes to me. That is what the Job experience is. Job is not about a man. It is about an experience of getting to know yourself. It is about an experience of getting to see who you truly are and growing to a place of understanding. He says, and the other, I'll get to Job, and now I want to get ahead of myself, but yes, you're right. That's exactly where we're going. The scripture I want to read, though, before we get there is Mark 12, 28 through 31. And I didn't look at each one of these verses. I mean, each word in these verses. I just want to make a point from it. Mark 12, 28 through 31, and the scribes. And one of the scribes came and heard them arguing and recognized that he had answered them well and asked him, what commandment is the foremost of all? And Jesus answered, the foremost is, hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one Lord, and you shall love the Lord with your God, love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, with all your strength. The second is this, you shall love your neighbor as yourself, and there is no other commandment greater than these. So how do you get there? How do you get to this point? Because he is exactly right in what he is saying, but what is the step to get there from getting to feeling obligated to and making statements like Creflo made, or getting out of the place where religion is now? How do you get there to this place that you see that love literally conquers everything? And if you can move to the place where you see and understand what love means, and that there is no boundaries to it, there are no exceptions. You are a part of and responsible for everything living and everything under the sun. It is who you are, and when you move to that place, you understand you've moved to a place that puts you ahead of just being religious. So, as Audrey mentioned, I looked at something in the episode of Job. It appears to us that was a happenstance, that God and the devil, if you will, as it is written, is there just happened to be there and notice Job. But this is not the case. This is an invitation that Job does. And this is all a part of who he is, or what it is. Job is describing the journey of each and every one of us who are on this phone right now. You are at a place that you are contemplating who you are in relationship to your understanding God, to understanding self, and trying to move forward. And you invited yourself to take that journey. So when you look at this thing, the name even Uz talks about to take counsel or to contemplate something. So here's a man from the land of Uz, and God says that and this again is all internal. Says that you are whole, you are complete, and the root of it says you have reached a place of maturity. You are mature. So here he is. He's moving to an understanding. He's moving beyond who just the obligation part of who he is, and this starts the journey. So it reminded me of the scripture in Isaiah. Is Isaiah 45? I am the Lord thy God to make good and evil. And that's what I said, that the evilness, if you see in this, the darkness serves as the catalyst to move you forward. So even part of him, the essence of his spirituality, gives him an opportunity to walk away from this. You don't have to do this. You don't have to do this if you don't want to. Look at who you are. Look at what you have. You can let this part die. You don't have to pursue this. So, but each and every one of us said, no, I have to pursue this. And everything in your life came before you, and you had to make a choice on it. And you still make choices on it, and you move forward. So as part of the conversation earlier with Mary, those dark periods do have a positive side to them. They help propel us forward. They keep us moving in the right direction. And in a lot of ways, they keep us focused. So when you get to this part, and I don't necessarily want to go through all of those and look at that. I just thought that, to look at the first part of this, because it describes the journey that we've each gone through and continue to go through. This is an ongoing thing. Experiencing yourself is becoming intimate with you. Becoming intimate with you, knowing parts of you that you've never seen before, or at the very least, never appreciated before. So as we do this, one of the things that I was reminded of, I remember when I was a kid, and I grew up on a farm, a pig farm in Aiken, and one of my chores was to take out the trash. So every day I was supposed to gather the trash out of all the rooms and take it in the kitchen, put it in the trash bag, and take it outside. We had a big 55-gallon barrel that was set off from the house a bit, and I took it out there and burned it. Okay, and I did that, and I hated it. Half time I had to be reminded. Not that I forgot, I just didn't want to do it, but I had to be reminded. It was just one of those things that, for whatever reason, I hated doing. So some time goes by. I turn 18 and I go to college. And I leave in August, and I come back in November. And I came back a couple of days earlier than anybody knew I was coming back. And I walk in the kitchen, probably about 1 o'clock in the morning or so, close to it. And I walk in the house, in the kitchen, and I see the trash overflowing. Without hesitation, I put my bags down. I got another trash bag. I put the trash in it and took it outside. I didn't burn it because of the late hour. But I remember something. I remember walking out there and saying, wasn't that long ago, this would have bothered you. But look at you now. What made this different? And I laughed to myself. I smiled to myself. And what I remembered was, when I first left and went off to school, There were days that I was so lonely and homesick, I almost came back. I almost came back probably within the first couple of weeks. And I remember calling my mom over and over and just talking. And we talk about nothing. And I knew I was running up the phone bill, and I got to a place where I didn't have to do that anymore. But in some of those times, without me recognizing, I came to a place of understanding. I came to a place of my appreciation of my family and what I was missing. And although I was there, when I was there, I couldn't wait to get away. I missed them so much when I left. So that place of maturity and understanding made me appreciate my family. And the taking out the trash was no longer a chore. It was no longer an obligation. It may not be quite the same as this, but we moved to a place with this journey that we take. It is a surrendering of self. It is an intimacy that not only do I surrender and become vulnerable to me in a spiritual sense, of course, but I also become spiritually vulnerable to whatever the Creator wants to show me and whatever direction He wants to take me in. So then I moved to a place where I have all those things that have stood in my way are passed before me, and I make judgments on them or how important they are to my life, and I move to the place of what Jesus is talking about here. So before we get into those, is there any questions? Does this make sense at all?
It does to me.
So just looking at this in verse 30, this is a growing thing. This is a maturing thing. This is reaching a level of understanding and moving forward into knowing who you are. So when he talks about this love here, you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart. This love talks about a place from your inner womb. This is talking about something that you pulled out that takes its birth from wisdom, and that it comes from the depth of who you are. So this is the utmost part of you. This is the part of you that you are not used to sharing in this sort of way, and with all your heart talks about the center of your being, not only your feelings but your intelligence and your emotional life. So everything that centers you, that keeps you grounded. And same thing with all your soul. This is talking about just the essence of who you are. This is talking about your very breath, the depth of who you are. And the soul even ties you together with everyone else. It ties you together with all of humanity. So there's nothing left here. Your mind is talking about, the Hebrew word for mind is your organ of thought and understanding. The place where you make discernments. So when you look at that, but the one that really stood out to me when he said, love your neighbor, also to love your neighbor. Neighbor talks about anybody who comes near to you, anybody that gets close to you. Neighbor even talks about self. Neighbor talks about those inner voices, those parts of you that you need to embrace, those parts of you that you push away or that you pretend aren't there. Those two are your neighbors. So it is quieting those voices inside of you and moving you to a place that all of you becomes the I want to say the essence of love, but all of you become love. All of you become the depth of wisdom and what is what this walk is all about. So when you stop and look at this, the opportunity that Creflo puts out there to me is greater than just the mere words that he said. There's a lot that can be straightened out here, and I dare to say this is just the beginning. There will be a lot of opportunities such as this to look at religious themes or religious principles and shed light on them. So I just thought that part of it we didn't get to yesterday, looking at this being an obligation rather than something that you embrace because you love doing it, is something that makes a difference. Any questions or comments?
When you said that this is just the beginning, something came to me about that, and it is this. Indeed, it is just the beginning of people recognizing the confusion that religious causes, because he conflated a gift with a law without understanding the difference between the two. Now there are people questioning tithing. There are pastors angry with him because of what he said. Confusion. And the chaos of religion is the very thing that brings people to a place of questioning. Where do I go from here? Is there anything out there that's truth? Those are the kinds of things that I see an outgrowth from what Creflo had to do in bringing forth that bringing forth the confusion about tithe. I'm waiting someone to raise up confusion about baptism and everything else that's the foundation of religion. And the reason I say that is because just like there is exposure in other places of religion and exposure in the political system globally, there is an opportunity for us to continue to do what we're doing so that refuge can be found by those who are searching. I'm done.
There is one part of this I forgot to say that I like to add, and then I think I'm done. I can hush. Your relationship with the voice that brings about enlightenment, your relationship with truth should be, as we are right now, something that you experience as much as you hear it. You feel that as I love to hear Evelyn say that resonates with me, and because it resonates with you, it shakes you in a good way, that rhythm all the way to your core, all the way to your soul, every part of your being, as verse 30 defines. And when you reach that place, that is a level of intimacy to know something is a part or a type of intercourse. It means that there are both sides that allow for a coupling. One is made for the other. So the hearer and the speaker, the voice and the universe all come together. And when that happens, and you feel that and you recognize that, you understand that, as Janice once said, tithing should be as easy as breathing. If the voice is your inhale, then your exhale is what you give back. And your exhale is verse 30. You receive and you become the action of that, because the end of that love is action. It becomes your being. So that's the part that I think that I really saw when he made that statement. It gives us an opportunity to free truth that has been captured by religion for so long. And that had me excited. So I just want that. I think that's all though I got. Thank you.
I want to say something, unless there are questions and comments. So go ahead and raise your questions and make your comments in reference to what Ron was speaking about. Well, this is in reference to what Ron was speaking about also. It had to be in African. Do what Creflo did. Look what happened with Carlton Pearson. Prior to Carlton Pearson being castigated by the charismatic community, TBN was alive and well, and TV ministry was very strong. But when Carlton Pearson spoke the truth and they castigated him, look how quickly it died. It's nowhere near as strong as it was, and there is no reviving it. And Africans spoke the truth, and those Caucasians, those evangelicals, who made him be like them, threw him out when he spoke the truth. So, as it is with Carlton Pearson, so must it be with Creflo Dollar. And that is, it takes an African to highlight the greatest confusion in the church, as well as the degree of greed in the church. The reason I say both Africans had to do this is because we are the most spiritual people on the face of the earth and always have been. And it took a well-known, well-respected Creflo Dollar to bring about confusion about tithing and recognizing, with people recognizing that the church is built on one of the pillars of the church is money, as opposed to love and kindness. we have an obligation. First of all, I want you to notice in the future, from this point, notice this, how much the confusion in all congregations, all churches, all denominations, notice the increase in the confusion, because it is time for the confusion to be exposed for what it is. It is simply bondage. And that bondage keeps us away from the true nature of spirituality, because we are trying to be something or someone that we are not. When we are ourselves and see us for who we are, things change. We have been told to dominate the earth if indeed the first humans came from the womb of an African. Then follows through that the words dominate and subdue were spoken to the African first. And our methods, our understanding of domination did not come from an Eastern understanding. It came from a Western mind who sees everything that it wants and takes it. Doesn't matter what it costs to humans or the earth, they take it. They rob it of all of its resources, and they don't care whether fracking causes earthquakes or not. It doesn't matter. Greed, $5 gallon gasoline, simply because they know what's coming with electric cars. Greed. So what am I saying about this domination and subduing thing? If indeed we are to dominate this earth, we have woefully missed our calling, because we have allowed ourselves to be dominated. Now there are a group of people who are determined to bring peace to this earth. The domination of this earth speaks to changing the conversation, changing the energy, changing the thoughts, changing how we relate to the physicality of this earth, but more importantly, changing how we think about each other, how we treat each other, and how we speak to each other. Domination means dominating the environment, the environment of the earth, the energy that functions in this earth, dominating it so change can be wrought. The idea of subduing speaks to the idea of subduing that which is out of sync with its creator. And we have been charged with doing this. We have been charged with changing the energy in the earth, as well as subduing the energy that is out of sync with the universe. Any questions or comments about that? Maybe a better question is, can you see that? Does it make sense?
I see a little bit of it, Rev, and I'm feeling what you're saying, but I still got to keep mulling around.
That's fine. Do that. By all means, do that. Chew on it for a while. Do your own research. And if need be, we discuss it further when we come back together again, or tonight if there are questions or comments. Okay. I thank you guys for everything tonight. Excuse me.
Pastor? Hello?
Uh-huh.
I think what you're saying is still the same thing we've been talking about. For us, it's that we have to get to that place of knowing, and we do know it. It's just we're battling with our emotions and our intellect and all of that too. But yeah, we have to get to that place where we can just set aside all that other stuff and feel confident in who we are and what we know.
And I suggest that when we question stuff, that we stop ourselves from questioning it by virtue of saying that's not who I am. Or when you desire and you've expressed your desire, then when the opposite of your desire approaches you, you do not allow it to enter your space without a challenge, and you simply push it out of your space by saying that's not what I'm expecting, that's not what's happening. Everything I desire is already there. But keep in mind, your desire cannot be selfish. If you keep the Sabbath, meaning that if you remind yourself who your Creator is, if you take care of the less fortunate, then you will receive the desires of your heart. The desires of our heart. That scripture has been taught as desiring a house, a car, money, etc. It is talking about being reflective of what Sabbath is all about and being to the poor, being to the less fortunate as you should be according to the scriptures. And when you do those things, the reason the desires of your heart are given to you is because your continuous recognition of who you are and how you were fearfully and wonderfully made, your recognition that you are Elohim will not allow you to have selfish desires. Your desires will always be for mankind. And even when things happen to you and you have to solve problems, issues, confrontations, etc., you recognize that you're not doing it only for yourself. Just like we put everything else in the macro, the solutions to your issues are also there for those who are searching for solutions. We are Elohim. Therefore, we are the ones who change the energy of the earth. We are the dominators, the subduers of everything that is not one with the universe. Questions or comments? And thank you, Audrey.
Yeah. Also, Pastor, I just wanted to, reiterate in terms of what Ron
had mentioned and has been stated many times is returning to beginnings. And what I, just received in the spirit was he talking about returning to love, returning to being who we are as Elohim. But as I was reading the definition, in the Strongs about the word no, the prime root, talks about yada in the Hebrew, but just how powerful words are, it talks about to acknowledge, and you talked about it to embrace. But to know is to be acquainted with, to be assured of, to be aware, to declare, to discover, and to instruct and perceive. And so I think that the power of words is, as we go back to appreciate returning to beginning, but returning to the love of who we are, returning to the love of us being able to, see the change, be the change, and at the same time, again, appreciating this journey that we're on. But I just needed to, again, just share that thought, because I know we talk about returning to beginning. And I know that, again, for us is returning to that important word, love. So I just wanted to share those thoughts in reference to the word yada in Hebrew, but to know.
Thank you.
As Proverbs says, James, and everyone, man, woman, know thyself. I wanted to share those thoughts. Thank you.
I'm sorry.
I want to expand on the yada, but go ahead.
I was going to say, is that the same as being intimate?
That's exactly
the love.
right.
Okay.
Yada is so powerful also because it speaks to intercourse. It speaks to being intimate. It speaks, intercourse results in birth. If you are intimate with your desires, then you know your desires. If you are intimate with the universe, then you know the universe. So you don't live in a world of questionable expectations. You live in a space where things are constantly being birthed because you have become intimate with them. The intimacy that we are experiencing, especially before we were on the phone and teachers coming together, the intimacy that we experience is that we could pretty much finish each other's sentences. We knew where each other was in terms of our desires. Not only that, we present differently, and the presenting differently happens because there are people who hear and process differently. So this whole idea of yada is extremely, extremely powerful. And that intimacy of the yada brings us to a place where we are intimate with the energy that's necessary to transform the energy in this earth realm, bringing it into a place of unicity with the universe. And we call that balance. Thank you. Any questions or comments? There being none, I thank you, and I pray that you guys will have questions when we come together again. And I look forward to seeing you on Saturday. Oh, remember this. There is more deadly COVID out there than you could even imagine. I was listening at reports today talking about how contagious this new strand is and how rapidly it is infecting people and how the death rates are being hidden because no one speaks of them since we are getting home tests. Nobody counts the ones who have COVID, and no one is counting the death rate with COVID. No one wants to accept the reality that the reason it is difficult to find people to work is not because people don't want to work. It's because they did. Over 1 million people died from COVID. How many people do you think that took out of the workforce? Unemployment 3.6, and there are still job openings to be filled. It's not because they don't want to work. It's because they're dead. Be vigilant. Thank you. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
You have a good
Thank you.
Thanks, Pastor. Thanks, Ron.
Thank you.
You all have a good evening.
Thank you.